listening to Stories from Real Life, a podcast by engaging storytellers for engaged story listeners. Here's your host, author and journalist, Melvin E. Edwards.
Hello again, and welcome to this July 23rd edition of Stories from Real Life. I'm your host, Melvin E. Edwards. John Williams will tell us more about today's guest, Heather Renee May.
Today's guest, Heather Renee May, has a diverse background that gives her a unique perspective on life. Ballet was her first love, and she danced professionally until retirement. She's now an author, podcast host, musician, dog lover, and wine enthusiast. Music has always had an important place in her life. A singer-songwriter under the stage name Heather Ray, she has released 2 albums and performs on guitar and fiddle throughout the U.S., mainly at wineries and intimate venues. In 2020, Heather launched the Flipping Dreams podcast, where she interviewed guests who had taken bold leaps professionally and personally to live their best lives. Believing it's never too late to achieve dreams, Heather challenged herself to reach for one of her goals of being an author. She moved into an RV full-time and has traveled around the country with her rescue pup, Dotty, for over 2 years. She launched her publishing house, Mayday Publishing Limited, and released her first novel, Cactus Christmas, a Texas wine trail series, in 2021. She quickly followed that with the second novel in the series, Cactus Wedding, in 2022. And her third novel, Cactus Cradle, is set to release in October 2024. Heather is also the host of Texas Book Talk, a live stream every Wednesday on social media, featuring Texas authors and sharing their books, process, and writing tips. To unwind, you'll find Heather chasing golf balls around her hometown course in Waco, learning Scottish fiddle tunes, and hanging out with her partner in crime, Dotty. Get comfortable and grab a beverage for today's episode of Stories from Real Life. Here's your host, Melvin E. Edwards.
Thank you, John, for that introduction. Heather May, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much, Melvin. I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you. So you and I met a couple of years ago in Wimberley at an author's event. And since then, you've been traveling around in your RV and writing more books.
Yes.
So tell me about your adventures and your travel partner, your dog, Dotty.
Yes, Dotty. She's the best. So we started this during COVID, actually. Bought like an 18-foot RPod travel trailer, ended up moving full-time into it because it was really, for us, I work remotely. So it was a way for us to be able to talk to people, go around the country, people at campsites. They were packed, but you could still distance yourself and be fairly safe, but still communicate. And so anyway, found ourselves in Spicewood, Texas in winter in the trailer and, quarantined. And I was like, I can't watch any more Hallmark movies. So I'm going to challenge myself to write something, to contribute something positive. And I'd never written a book. And so I challenged myself to write 1,000 words a day. And a couple months later, I had the first draft of manuscript for my first book.
1,000 words a day is a pretty ambitious goal. It's obviously realistic, but it's pretty ambitious, especially for a first-time writer. Was that a challenge for you?
It was, but to be honest, and I definitely pantsed this book because I had no idea. I had an idea of what I wanted, but I didn't really know where it was going to go. And so I would just kind of write. I'd do it with scenes, and I'd write out. And then once I started getting stuck, I wouldn't edit anything. I'd just write. And then once I'd start to get stuck, I'd check my word count. If I was at 1,000, I'd just stop for the day and go to work. And so I did it every morning. And then sometimes I didn't always write. They say you just at least touch your manuscript. Or in my case, my book's about wine, so I would have to do research on the wine trail. And that was me staying in the book while I was writing it. But
a determined researcher.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so you have a diverse range of interests and accomplishments. You began your professional journey as a dancer.
Yes.
Now you write about wine and traveling. So have you ever thought about combining them by dancing while drinking wine in your RV?
There's no video proof of this, but that may actually happen from time to time. Depends on how many bottles of wine.
I kind of suspected that might be the case.
Yeah.
So what kind of dancer were you?
I was a ballet dancer. So I did classical and contemporary ballet.
In New York, right?
In New York, in Seattle, in Denver, kind of traveled all over. My first company that I was with was a regional company out of Denver called David Taylor Dance Theater. And so did many, many nutcrackers with them, traveling in small vans with other dancers across the Midwest to perform every year, which was really fun. So some good memories.
So what's a life of a dancer like?
Discipline, a lot of discipline, a lot of, you don't really have a life. So it's for me, I was working during the day, and then I would have classes and rehearsals in the evenings, and then we would go, of course, on tour when we had shows, and it was it's pretty intense. It's a professional sport that isn't paid in the same. So you're training and you're eating and you're sleep. Everything is focused. Your diet, everything is about being a high performance athlete, really.
So what about injuries? How often were you injured and then still had to perform?
I didn't. Well, luckily didn't have. I had like one major ankle injury. Mostly they would be strains and sprains and shin splints and that sort of thing. And you just kind of learn that you have to. Yeah, you kind of suck it up, and of course I was on point, so my feet were just a mess, and the show must go on. It's part of the.
I was just going to say that the show must go on.
Yeah. So, but it taught me a lot, and no, I was just going to say it taught me a lot, and to where I am now. My day job is I'm a software engineer, and. I really attribute a lot of just everything that I do in my life. I feel like I've learned from dance, because the determination, the grit, the never giving up, and just striving for those goals, and just, all of those things that you learn from the foundations of dance and ballet in particular, have really served me well in other areas of my life.
Oh, do you consider yourself a free spirit?
To a point. I would say, so I am half and half left and right brain. So I love my engineering life and checking boxes and logical things and fixing problems. But I also love the creative side. I also play music, and I love thinking out of the box. I love that whole creative side. So I think if I could only do one or the other, I would be miserable, because I really do like the balance of both. I like to be creative, but I also like to have structure. I like to, I respond really well with limits and guidelines, and, I don't know. And I couldn't just be completely free form. I think that would make me a little crazy.
So you're a different type of a free spirit, a whole new genre of free spirit.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
So we talked about wine already, and we'll have more conversation about that. So
yes.
You drive around your RV, you go to wineries, and you perform some of the time. We'll get to the music in just a moment, but let's stick with wine for a second. What are some of your favorite wineries in Texas?
Yeah, so I fell in love with a lot of the wineries in Fredericksburg off of Highway 290. My characters in the first book, Cactus Christmas, features 14 wineries in Fredericksburg. And my book's here. Do you mind if I show
No, go ahead.
Okay. So for those who are viewing this, I'm showing a book that says Cactus Christmas, and there's an Airstream trailer on it. And it's the first in the series, and it's a Texas Wine Trail series. And so it's kind of a part fiction, like a Hallmark story, but set in real places that you can visit. And there's like a travel guide in the back of each book that I write. And so the first winery that the characters meet at is called Texas Heritage Vineyards, and it's one of my favorites. Billy and Susan Johnson run it, and it's just before you get to Fredericksburg, downtown proper. And it's where all the locals go. All the locals hang out there from Fredericksburg. They have great music, excellent wine. It's a very community-oriented winery. And there are like over 65 wineries down in the Fredericksburg area now. So like part of what I did in my book is highlight there's so many different types. There's the wineries that are more relaxed and more, casual. Then there's the like Heath sparkling wines, and I forget the partner wine right now. I can't think of it, but that's like way more high end and, bubbly champagne kind of dress up winery. There's just the kind of everything. There's safari wineries. There's wineries you can go to and look at safari animals. I mean, there's just a lot of different experiences. And so I think that one of the things that I love to do through my books is to help share that with people so they can kind of choose their own adventure. But the wineries that I am a member of are Texas Heritage Vineyard and Longhorn Cellars, which is also just up the road, and again owned by a lovely couple and a very tight knit group of community. I've been there. I've been able to do harvest the Merlot grapes last year, which was really fun. And so, yeah, it's just been, and their partnership, getting to work with as I do my research, I get to talk to the winemakers, ask questions, and I've learned so much more about Texas wine. I thought it was always like, oh, Texas wine isn't great and it's sweet wine and it's just bachelorette parties, but that is not the case. There's some amazing varietals. There's, just that the wines are beating out competitions in California and, in Europe. And it's just a really exciting time for Texas. So it's pretty neat.
It is. It's pretty interesting. I don't drink wine, but my wife loves wine. So I get dragged along to some of the wineries and we go to Fredericksburg, and she's a member of the Becker winery.
Yes,
that's
Becker's
the one
great
she
too.
likes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so they've given us a tour, and she finds it fascinating and thinks we're going to open a winery someday. I'll support her in her dream, but that's not really what I'm interested in. But she enjoys it.
It's a lot of work. It's farming. It's a lot of work. I would say become a, founding member or, contribute in that way where you can go and drink the wine and pick up the wine at pickup parties, but you don't have to be there every day in and day out and doing all the hard work of the farming part of it. So
it is pretty interesting that a town as small as Fredericksburg has over 60 wineries. Why is that?
And growing. Well, I go into this a little bit in books 2 and book 3 that's coming out this October. Book 3 is actually a mystery on the wine trail. So in book 2, I talk about sort of the issues of like what it takes to farm, what amount of grit. Making wine in Texas is way different than California or anywhere else. Our terroir is particularly challenging, and we have all kinds of issues besides just weather and all the things and drought. And so it's really a testament to the people that do make to these wineries that they're able to produce so well. And part of what we started seeing in the last few years is a lot of Californians moving to Texas. And so a lot of the new vineyards are maybe owned by people from California or other places that have come in because they want to capitalize. They don't want to pay the, California taxes and the cost of the land and all the other, issues and things that happen, regulations that go on in California. So they've started to come to Texas, and that's created a little bit of a rub with the Texas folks. Also, Texas, it's a big deal to have 100% Texas wine. William Chris, William Brundrett, who's part of William Chris Winery, he and a few other winery owners, they went and created legislation basically where that you cannot put a label on your wine bottle saying it's 100% Texas wine unless it actually is. It has to actually be 100% coming from Texas, all of it. So that's really been impactful, I think, for the local, growers and everything. But it has been a rub. So I kind of capitalized on that a little bit. And in book 3, there's a mystery of someone tampering in the wine trail, and there's some tensions that come to head with this, and it's been kind of fun to play around with this a little bit and introduce people to what's been happening without being judgmental in any way. And of course, it's like a Hallmark story, so everything probably works out in the end. But it has been fun understanding that a little bit more, and again, seeing like how important it is to support. These are small families, a lot of these wineries, and so it's their bread and butter. They hope to pass on to generations, and it's a lot of work. So, yeah.
And fun for people like you who get to travel around and taste the fruit there.
Yeah, it's great fun. And getting to be a part of it too. I've done bottling. Helped out with bottling. I've helped out with hand picking Merlot grapes, and just, I'm sort of a city girl. I'm a city and a country mouse, I guess. But, I lived in New York for over 12 years. So like, I definitely, for me to be able to dig my hands into the dirt and be kind of part of that and help out is really fun too. So
have you ever thought about doing an international wine tour?
Yeah, that would be amazing. I will drink wine anywhere. So really, there's no...
You just need a passport and.
Yeah. So part of my thing was like, okay, if I'm going to write about these things, so then I have to go and experience them. And so, in my book, one of the characters, her in-laws live in Burgundy, in France, and in that region. And so, I'm like, gosh, I might have to, if I expand her character, I might have to go to France, and, how else will I describe the things? So no, it's been a fun, just kind of labor of love, but also I have a lot of folks that have really, really enjoyed reading the books. They're fun, fast reads, and they love to point out, they're like, oh, I've been to this vineyard, or I know this place, or because it's not just wine. I do have restaurants, and I have boutiques and different businesses throughout the Hill Country that I try to help promote. So, so it's been, it's fun.
Awesome. All right. So until you get to do the international tour, you're mostly doing Texas tours or Texas vineyard.
Yeah.
So what's been your biggest challenge in living in a tiny home on wheels?
Yeah. So, and just as a disclaimer, so I don't live full time in an RV anymore, but I did for 2.5 years. I lived in an 18-foot trailer and then a 22-foot trailer, traveling around the country, doing a loop to avoid hurricane season with my dog Dotty, who's a rescue. She's a pointer, Jack Russell. There's a lot of things that are challenging. Folks really highlighted like RV life is so appealing and it's less expensive and you don't have a mortgage or whatever. And that's not really true. It actually can be very expensive to RV. It's because more people are doing it. It's harder to find spots. Monthly spots is how you save your money, but it's harder to find monthly spots because more people are living full time. There's the travel, there's dumping your tanks, poo management, all that. There's a lot of things that go along with RV life that can be challenging, but the things that make it great, the community, the sense of travel, the fact that when you have a rig, you can just up and go somewhere. And so I actually just got back into RV life. So I had bought a brick and mortar. I had damage to my fifth wheel. Oh yeah, that was my third rig. I bought 3 rigs in 2.5 years. I would not recommend this. This is not like an inexpensive endeavor to do. But anyway, I had a fifth wheel. The roof membrane failed and I had to come to Waco to get it fixed and wait for 8 weeks. And I ended up buying a house and selling it after I got it fixed. Well, 2 years later, almost 2 years now, I just bought a Class A for the first time. So for my book tour, for my upcoming book coming out in October, I will be traveling around Texas, going to RV parks, KOAs, different places, wineries, and getting to do book signings and, of course, drink wine. And there's no weight limit, so I can have as many bottles of wine on the coach as I want. But no, really, looking really excited to be like back in the life, because I do miss just being able to say, hey, I want to go see a friend over here. And, with Dotty, you could drive there. You've got everything you need. You've got your kitchen. You've got your food. You can cook. You don't have to spend money going out. There's just, the sense of community at the RV parks and the friends that I've made some amazing friends along the way in my travels. And so I definitely, when you ask me if I'm a free spirit, in that sense, I absolutely am. I get very antsy if I'm in a single place for too long. I really love to see places. I really love to go places, see different views. If you ask me, what would you like best? Ocean, mountains? I'd be like, I want them all. I can't ever make a decision where exactly I want to be, because wherever I am, I'm like, I could live here. And then I drive to the next place and I'm like, I could live here. So yeah.
That sounds like a Queen song. Like, I want it all. I want it now.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe there's
all right. So while you're
me.
in Waco, while you're in Waco, Texas, have you ever run across Chip and Joanna Gaines?
I have not, but I have definitely been to the silos. I have met Jimmy Don Holmes, who does the metal cutouts, the artwork. I do the celebration, or we have like a market next to the celebration every year for my books. So I do that. And haven't met them in person, but gosh, you see their imprint everywhere. They're just doing such an amazing job of renovating and revitalizing Waco. And now, so my dad is from Waco. He's from Whitney, Waco area. And when I was younger, he would be like, okay, we have to go visit our, grandmother. Yeah. And I'd be like, why Waco? I don't want to go to Waco. Like, why? I mean, it's just the place you didn't want to go, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And now the fact that it's a destination for so many people, and hundreds and thousands of people come here now to see the silos, to see the castle, to see all the things that they're doing. And now they have a new Hotel 1928 that they launched, and just like it keeps going, and it is helping other businesses downtown to also revitalize. And so the entire vibe of Waco is changing, which is really kind of a cool thing to be part of.
Yeah, I've said before that the Chamber of Commerce should name them Business People of the Year every year in Waco. Because before they came along, most people outside of Texas only knew Waco for the Branch Davidians.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So they've definitely reformed that image.
I was just going to say, I wouldn't be surprised if we changed it from Waco to Gainesville or something.
Well, we already got a Gainesville. We'll have to just call it Gainestown or something.
Yeah.
So being in Texas, we can have some severe weather events. So how do you handle that in an RV?
Yeah, it's super stressful. And that was a big part of why I got my brick and mortar. To be honest, I just kind of had PTSD I was in Alabama when there were storms that came through, and that's also Tornado Alley. And we had the tornado warning. The sirens went off. We were at the RV park. Everyone in the park crammed into the one brick building that was like the bathrooms. And we sat there watched a funnel cloud form across the street and then break up.
Wow.
And now when you're thinking like everything I own and I care about is in this rig, when you're full timing, it is absolutely terrifying. And then I've also been in the rig overnight with 50, 60 mile an hour winds, and the thing is shaking, and you're just like, oh my gosh, should I have moved? Should I get out of the trailer? What should I do? Like, it's just all the things. And I know people who have also had their rigs struck by lightning and it's fried their entire systems. So
wow.
It is, so it is definitely stressful. And so that's part of why I did my loop around the country was I would avoid hurricane season and go up to New York. So I would do the summer in the Northwest, go across to New York at the end of summer, drop down the coast slowly, get to like Florida-ish, Panhandle, come across, and then late winter in Texas, and try to avoid like the worst of the weather. But you never know, and you always have to watch. And I think for me, because I was able to move my rig, I could watch the weather patterns and make different changes. Like I could be like, oh no, we're going to go this way. But the people who don't move and live full time and are stationary. I was in a park in northern Texas near north of Dallas. I can't remember the name of the town right now. And took Dotty to the dog park, and I saw this pile of debris. And one of the other RV park folks, they had their dog, and I said, oh, were they doing construction? She's like, oh no, that's tornado that came through here. That's the remnants of a couple trailers that it hit.
Wow. And
then come to find out, there was a guy who was in one of the trailers that was hit by the tornado. He survived, but he was inside his trailer at the time. And it's just and there's nothing left. I mean, it's just just debris. And so, when you start to see, it's definitely, it can be, that part of it can be definitely stressful. I won't lie. So.
Well, I'm glad you've got a firm foundation now that you can go to for safety.
I do, but I still, but I'm also glad that I can still partake of the life part-time and go for a month or two here and there. And because I really love it.
So when you drive, is your intention to go to see places or to see people?
It's usually a kind of a mixture of both. I would say more people though, a little bit, than places. I like to go, maybe I should say this way. I try to make friends in the places that I want to visit. So then I can see them, but also go to the places that, I love Charleston, and I love St. Augustine area. I also have friends in upstate New York that I love to try to see. I have friends in North Carolina and Asheville area. Friends in the Northwest, of course, friends in California, Northern and Southern California. So I think that when I was doing my loop, I would try to just figure out waypoints where I could visit people, but also see things that I wanted to see. Being that I work full time in the rig, I definitely can't take advantage people who are retired. Most people who are doing full time travel that are a little bit older, they're going to see Yosemite. They're doing all the national parks. They're doing, they have specific things that they want to, check off their bucket list. Unfortunately, I don't have that luxury because I'm working still and working the full-time job and doing the books and all this stuff. So, I don't have a lot of extra time. But I do try to see as much as I can. And hopefully, 5-10 years from now, I'll be able to change that and be able to really go to visit places that, and see all the national monuments and different things that I want to see and have the time to do that.
Well, do you sort of feel like you're reinventing yourself with being a software engineer, being a musician, being an author now, and a wine connoisseur, or are you just exploring the different sides of your personality?
I would say that I'm ever evolving. If that, because, I've drank wine for quite some time now, so that's not new. But, I think that, what's changing is, that when I was younger, I would try to do things, to try to be something. I would, I'm going to, be this musician and go on tour and do this, or I'm going to be this thing. I think that now, as I'm getting older, I don't necessarily want to be a certain thing. I just want to enjoy the things that I enjoy and have that sort of a different balance to it. And hopefully people can enjoy the fruits of those labors and the things that I enjoy, like the books or the music or whatever I'm sharing or the conversation or whatever. But I think that I don't know. I don't feel as driven, if that makes sense, than when I was younger, when I was trying to, I definitely feel that shift. I just turned 50 and I feel that shift pretty dramatically, that I'm like, I don't know that I want to spend that much time and energy trying to be something, I don't know. Does that make sense to you?
It does make sense, yes. All right, so let's talk about your books. So tell us about the book series, some of the characters in the books, and a little bit about what readers can expect with your upcoming book later this year.
Okay, sure. So I've written a Texas Wine Trail series. There's 2 books in the series so far, and then the third is coming out in October. The first book is Cactus Christmas, which I'm holding up, and it has this pink cover with a wine glass and an Airstream trailer, some cowboy boots. And then the second one is Cactus Wedding. It's got a blue cover with a nice picture of a wedding dress, and there's a little Airstream trailer inset. The third book is Cactus Cradle. So it's a fictional, uplifting, fast read, kind of a Hallmark-like story that continues through the books, but each book is set in real places. And so in the back of each book, I have a list of all the wineries, restaurants, different places that you can actually go and, mark off and visit and go check out yourself and support the Texas Wine Trail. And and it's available everywhere. It's available on Amazon, Audible, all the places. But every fall when I have a release, I go and do signings in person at a bunch of different events. So I'll list that on social media and on my website and all that.
Okay, and at the end, I'll ask you to share with the listeners how they can follow you and get in touch with you.
Sure, absolutely.
So what's the significance of the cactus?
I think I wanted something because it is the Cactus Christmas, the first book, before I knew it was going to be really a series. It's kind of prickly and sweet, and it's this kind of she's the main character is going through a really tough divorce, but she's got to save herself, but maybe she also gets the good guy too, and so kind of wanted to evoke that image of the dusty cactus, kind of paddle cactus, hill country vibe. But then, of course, have this kind of Christmas. Everyone loves a Christmas story, so that was how that happened. And then wedding just seemed, once I knew it was a series, then it was like, okay, wedding, but it's not the wedding you think that's going to happen. And then cradle, but I won't go into more. I don't want to spoiler alert, but it's not really about babies. So, so it's been, it just kind of took a life of its own.
Awesome. All right. So now let's switch over to your music for a little bit. So you perform live and you travel around vineyards and other places and you perform, and you've got some Louisiana and Texas roots. So how has that influenced your music?
Yeah. So my mom's side of the family is from Alexandria, Louisiana, north. It's kind of the tip of the Acadian Triangle. And my father's, of course, from Texas, got Scottish-Irish heritage. So it's definitely influenced what I've been drawn to. I started doing genealogy work to understand it a little bit more about my birth mother's side of the family. And that brought me to Louisiana, and I started learning Cajun fiddle tunes and got really immersed in that culture. And then more recently, I kind of pulled out of that and got into Scottish culture with the fiddle, same instrument, but I've been learning Scottish tunes from a lady in Edinburgh, which has been really fun. And so just getting to play different genres on fiddle, and just really kind of as a tribute to my own roots and what's in my blood, and it's been really interesting.
So what would be a dream venue for you to perform at?
I love intimate venues. So I think my favorite venues to play are like listening room style venues. They don't have to be that big or that many people, but they're the type of venues where you will be shushed if you're talking. Like everyone is listening to everything. I'm also a singer-songwriter on guitar. And so a lot of the times when I play these venues, it's like these people are actually really listening to every single word you've written. And those are the moments when you really connect with the audience where, someone comes up to you after and they're like, God, that song was like meant for me. Like that really hit me, or, it's just like you have that connection that you don't necessarily have when it's a loud bar and you're just background, or if it's a really big arena where you can't really even see the people, or it's just you on stage. So, I like having that communication with the audience.
So what's your favorite kind of music to listen to?
That's a good question. Kind of depends on my mood. To be honest, I kind of have recently been listening to a lot more kind of pop and upbeat and kind of dance trance kind of music, because it gives me energy. And it's just like, and also when I'm working, I can't really listen to words that much. So I have to it just is easier for me to have that going on in the background. But I love other songwriters and like more soulful music. I love Maren Morris. I love just, artists that just have a big voice. I even go back sometimes to older artists like Kate Bush, or, I don't know. I have a pretty eclectic, it kind of depends on what mood I'm in and kind of what comes up that, and of course I'm in Texas, so I have to like country, but
yeah. So the more you talk, the more free spirit I hear coming from it. And Kate Bush in particular.
Yeah. Yeah, she's brilliant.
All right, so a final question here before we go. I would like for you to tell everyone where they can find your music venue schedule, if you've got a schedule currently, and how they can get your books and how they can contact you or follow you on social media.
Absolutely. So you can find everything about me at my website. It's heatherreneemay.com. That's Heather, Renee is RENEE, May like the month.com. And in that website, I have little tabs where you can go for book information or music information or my podcasts or live stream information or anything else that I have going on in my free spirit eclectic world. You can find it there. You can also find me on Facebook at Heather Renee May, and at Instagram, it's _everydayismay. You'll know it's my account because you'll see lots of pictures of my dog or RV life. And right now I actually don't have any upcoming gigs. I've been working on finishing this third book and I'm the writer and publisher and marketer and all the things for the book. So getting prepared for a book tour like this is it's a lot of work. So I haven't had any gigs, but that usually changes in fall. Once I get past a certain point of preparations, then I have time to do that. So definitely please check out and follow me on social, and come see me in person somewhere.
That sounds like fun. And I will definitely have the links to your social media and your website on the show note descriptions. So this week, our guest has been writer, musician, traveler, and cultured wine drinker. She's not a wino. She's a cultured wine drinker. It's Heather Renee May. Heather, thank you for being here and sharing your stories. It's been a pleasure to have you here today.
Thanks so much, Mel. I appreciate it.
So that's it for this week's episode of Stories from Real Life. Join us again next time for another great storytelling adventure. Until then, don't forget to shine your light wherever you go.
That was Stories from Real Life. Join us again next week for another great storytelling journey. See you next time.